Logan's Run wasn't just Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer's ambitious science fiction spectacle. It was a production where the budget tripled from $3 million to $9 million, where Farrah Fawcett got prominent billing for a tiny role months before Charlie's Angels made her a superstar, and where test audiences forced cuts of extensive nudity to avoid an R rating that would have killed the box office. What you watched was disco-era dystopia in candy colors. What you didn't see was 8 months of grueling post-production, genuinely innovative hologram effects created specifically for the film, and George Pal spending 2 years on the project before giving up. This wasn't cheap B-movie science fiction. It was Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer's most expensive film in 10 years, a last gasp of old-fashioned science fiction spectacle, released 1 year before Star Wars changed everything forever. Here are 20 weird, shocking, and unknown facts about Logan's Run that reveal how Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer bet big on youth culture dystopia and accidentally created the end of an era. Number 20. The budget tripled, from $3 million to $9 million during production. Logan's Run was initially projected to cost $3 million, a respectable budget for mid-1970s science fiction. By the time production wrapped, the final cost had ballooned to $9 million, making it an expensive film for 1976 and the most expensive Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer production in a decade. Most of that money went directly into elaborate sets rather than star salaries or special effects. The budget escalation reflected Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer's commitment to making Logan's Run a prestige science fiction film rather than exploitation fare. 9 entire sound stages at Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer's Culver City facility hosted production, including a miniature city among the largest built to date. The scale ambition exceeded initial projections, forcing the studio to either cancel midstream or commit additional resources. They chose commitment. The financial gamble paid off commercially, if not artistically. Logan's Run grossed $2,500,000 in its first 5 days and finished with $25 million in North America, a solid return that helped Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer recover from debt. Young audiences particularly embraced the film. The success demonstrated that science fiction could be financially viable for major studios, though critics gave mixed reviews calling it vast, silly extravaganza. Number 19. George Pal worked 2 years on the project before giving up. Producer George Pal, known for fantasy and science fiction hits like The Time Machine and War of the Worlds, was hired by Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer in 1969 to develop Logan's Run. He spent nearly 2 years wrestling with the property but couldn't produce a satisfactory screenplay. Competing visions plagued development. Should the film incorporate real-life social issue symbolism or remain straightforward adventure? Screenwriter Richard Maibaum wrote an initial screenplay, but rewriting would have required 2 to 3 months and complete budget reassessment. Pal became increasingly concerned that delays would cause Logan's Run to miss the wave of science fiction success that 2001, A Space Odyssey and Planet of the Apes had created in 1968. Development hell consumed the project. American International Pictures offered $200,000 to buy Pal's projects, including Logan's Run, but Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer declined, demanding minimum $350,000. Unable to crack the screenplay and frustrated by studio resistance, Pal left the project in 1974 to produce Doc Savage, The Man of Bronze for Warner Brothers instead. Saul David assumed producing responsibilities, bringing fresh perspective that finally moved Logan's Run toward production. Number 18. The authors sold film rights for $100,000 before publication. William F. Nolan and George Clayton Johnson knew from conception they wanted Logan's Run adapted as a film. As soon as publication was secured with Dial Press in 1967, they set out selling film rights. They received several offers, but held out until reaching their target price of $100,000, substantial money for unpublished science fiction. The author's vision for the story reflected 1960s youth culture anxieties. Johnson explained in 1976, "In our society right now, with the old people living in nursing homes instead of with their families, this continuity has already been lost. That's why we have so many dumb 40 to 60-year-old people around, because they weren't living with someone older who could pass along accumulated knowledge." The novel depicted a more brutal world than the film. People died at age 21, not 30. There was no carousel, citizens reported to sleep shops for termination. The domed city didn't exist. People could travel anywhere globally. Sanctuary was real, and Logan and Jessica actually reached it. The film kept only basic premises: mandatory death at set age, and Logan running with Jessica while pursued by Sandman Francis. Number 17. The age was raised from 21 to 30 to expand casting options. David Zelig Goodman wrote a nearly completely new screenplay, making one crucial change from the novel, raising the age of death from 21 to 30. The decision was purely practical. It opened casting to greater numbers of experienced actors. Finding talented performers under 21 was limiting, expanding to 30 provided vastly more options. Stanley R. Greenberg, author of Soylent Green, was initially assigned to write and devise Carousel, the ritual where citizens are incinerated with supposed chance of renewal. Greenberg then dropped off the project and Goodman took over, keeping Carousel while restructuring everything else. The final screenplay bore little resemblance to the novel beyond basic concept. The age change also made the dystopia feel less immediately threatening to 1976 audiences. Most viewers were under 21 or close to it. Mandatory death at that age would have hit too personally. 30 felt comfortably distant, futuristic rather than imminent. The modification allowed audiences to engage with the premise intellectually without experiencing visceral dread. Number 16. William Devane was cast then quit to do a Hitchcock film. Michael York, Jenny Agutter, and William Devane were originally cast in lead roles in May 1975. Devane was announced to play an elite Sandman, presumably Francis, the antagonist pursuing Logan. Devane had strong credentials including Lawman, Chato's Land, and Rooster Coburn. Then Devane suddenly withdrew from Logan's Run to replace Roy Thins in Alfred Hitchcock's 1976 film Family Plot. Choosing Hitchcock over science fiction seemed reasonable. Working with the legendary director on his final film represented a once-in-lifetime opportunity. Devane's departure left Logan's Run scrambling for replacement. Richard Jordan stepped in, best known for performances in Lawman, 1971, Chato's Land, 1972, Rooster Coburn, 1975, and the 1976 television miniseries Captains and the Kings. Jordan brought intensity and menace to Francis, creating the film's most memorable villain performance. His Francis is relentless, humorless, absolutely committed to the system, exactly what the role required. The casting change worked favorably. Jordan's serious, threatening Francis provided better dramatic contrast to York's increasingly uncertain Logan than Devane might have delivered. Sometimes last-minute replacements improve films in unpredictable ways. Number 15. Farrah Fawcett got prominent billing for a tiny supporting role. Farrah Fawcett Majors plays Holly 13, a beautician at New You Shop who appears briefly. The role is small, minutes of screen time at most, yet Fawcett received prominent billing in credits and marketing materials. Why? Her rising celebrity in television earned treatment disproportionate to her actual contribution. Michael York claimed credit for talent spotting Fawcett in his autobiography Accidentally on Purpose. He noticed her playing tennis at a mutual friend's home and recommended her for Logan's Run. Fawcett's performance is perfectly adequate but forgettable. Holly exists to provide exposition and then participate in a knockdown, drag-out fight with Jessica that was later trimmed in editing. The prominent credit proved prescient. Charlie's Angels, the television movie that would launch Fawcett to superstardom, aired March 21, 1976, just months before Logan's Run premiered in June. By the time Logan's Run reached theaters, Fawcett was becoming a phenomenon. Her famous red swimsuit poster sold 6 million copies in its first year. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer capitalized on her sudden fame. The timing created perfect synergy. Logan's Run benefited from Fawcett's exploding celebrity, while Fawcett's fans sought out her film work. Her shag haircut in Logan's Run became another trend alongside her Charlie's Angels look. A tiny role became valuable marketing asset through fortuitous timing. Number 14. Peter Ustinov improvised most of his dialogue, including T.S. Eliot references. Peter Ustinov was announced in September 1975 to play the last man alive in Washington, D.C. His character, known only as Old Man, represents the only elderly person Logan and Jessica encounter, living proof that life beyond 30 exists. Ustinov, an accomplished writer and director himself, brought improvisational brilliance to the role. Michael York praised Ustinov extensively. Ustinov improvised much of his dialogue, including snatches of T.S. Eliot's Poems of Cats, a decade before a certain other Englishman made it world famous in a marvelous swampy southern accent. Ustinov's performance added literary weight and genuine poignancy to what could have been one-note character. The Old Man sequences provide Logan's Run's emotional and thematic center. Ustinov shows the beauty, wisdom, and dignity that the domed city's youth culture has lost by eliminating anyone over 30. His rambling monologues about the past, delivered with theatrical flair and surprising tenderness, make the dystopia's cost heartbreakingly clear. Ustinov's casting represented the film's single greatest creative choice. Lesser actor would have made the Old Man either pathetic or incomprehensible. Ustinov made him wise, funny, tragic, and utterly human, everything the sanitized city residents have been conditioned to fear and reject. Number 13. The film used genuine holograms created specifically for production. For the scene where Logan is interrogated by the Deep Sleep Central computer, producer Saul David insisted that genuine holograms would be most convincing. He demanded that new hologram effects be created specifically for Logan's Run rather than using existing techniques. This wasn't Hollywood smoke and mirrors. These were actual holographic images. The hologram sequence represented cutting-edge visual technology for 1976. Creating convincing three-dimensional imagery that appeared to float in space required innovation beyond standard optical effects. The production invested significant resources developing the technique, understanding that this central sequence needed to feel genuinely futuristic. The decision reflected Logan's Run's commitment to visual innovation despite budget concerns. Many science fiction films would have faked the effect through traditional means. Logan's Run insisted on technological authenticity. If the script called for holograms, the production would create actual holograms. This dedication extended throughout production, from rainbow tape on city models to wide-angle lenses not generally available. The hologram scene became one of the film's most memorable visual sequences, demonstrating that practical innovation could create stunning effects without relying solely on optical tricks. The sequence influenced how subsequent science fiction films approached advanced technology visualization. Number 12. Rainbow tape had just been invented and was used on city models. The miniature city models that appear throughout Logan's Run featured rainbow tape, material that had literally just been invented. The production seized on this new technology immediately, recognizing how it could create futuristic visual effects. The tape gave city scenes exactly the colorful, utopian quality production design required. The rainbow tape contributed to Logan's Run's distinctive visual aesthetic, bright, cheerful, almost garish in its optimism. The domed city looks like 1970s shopping mall crossed with Disney attraction, all smooth curves and primary colors. The tape enhanced this candy-colored dystopia, where everything seems perfect until you understand the horror beneath. The production also used wide-angle lenses not generally available to cinematographers. These technical innovations, combined with the enormous miniature city, among the largest built to date, created visual scope that impressed 1976 audiences, even if modern viewers find the effects dated. Number 11. Carousel required hidden wires to depict levitation. Special effects artists L.B. Abbott and Glenn Robinson regarded Carousel as the film's most difficult sequence to portray. The ritual where citizens are supposedly renewed required depicting multiple people levitating and spinning through space before exploding in flames. Making this look convincing demanded extensive wire work that needed to be completely hidden. Carousel represents Logan's Run's central horror, mass euthanasia disguised as spiritual transcendence. The sequence needed to feel simultaneously beautiful and terrifying. Abbott and Robinson achieved this through combination of wire work, lighting, and pyrotechnics. The levitating bodies spin gracefully before bursting apart, creating spectacle that's gorgeous and deeply disturbing. The technical challenges were substantial. Each performer had to be suspended on hidden wires, coordinated to move in patterns that seemed choreographed but natural. The explosions needed precise timing to match movements. Lighting had to hide wires while dramatically illuminating the bodies. The sequence required dozens of takes and extensive post-production work. Carousel became the film's signature image, appearing in all marketing materials. The visual spectacle perfectly encapsulated Logan's Run's themes, a culture that has made death beautiful, acceptable, even desirable through ritualized pageantry that disguises mandatory murder as voluntary transformation. Number 10. Roscoe Lee Brown wore a robot costume to play Box. The robot character Box, who captures Logan and Jessica in the ice cave, was portrayed by placing actor Roscoe Lee Brown in elaborate robot costume. This wasn't stop-motion animation or puppetry, it was a human performer in practical costume giving a theatrical performance through mechanical constraints. Brown's voice work made Box memorable despite limited screen time. His odd recitation, "Fish and sea greens, plankton and protein from the sea," became one of the film's most quoted lines. Brown brought strange menace and tragic comedy to the robot, who continues performing his food storage function long after his purpose has ended. The practical costume approach created authentic physicality that animation couldn't match. Box moves with mechanical stiffness, but also human gesture. The combination unsettles audiences. This is clearly a machine, but something disturbingly alive animates it. Brown's performance threading that line made Box more effective villain than pure robot or pure human could achieve. The ice cave sequence showcased production design at its most ambitious. The frozen sculptures of humans preserved as food provided gruesome visual horror. Box represented humanity reduced to function, performing programmed tasks without understanding their meaninglessness, a metaphor for the entire society Logan and Jessica are fleeing. Number 9. Extensive nudity was cut to secure PG rating. The film was previewed for test audiences prior to release. Based on reactions, several sequences were edited or shortened. The longest cut involved the ice cave sequence, where Box asked Logan and Jessica to pose for his ice sculpture. This extended scene included extensive nudity that would have forced an R rating. PG-13 didn't exist in 1976. Films rated either G, PG, M, later PG, R, or X. An R rating would have severely limited Logan's Run's commercial potential, particularly with young audiences who formed the target demographic. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer needed PG rating to maximize box office, requiring nudity removal despite artistic arguments for inclusion. Other scenes were also trimmed or removed entirely. A sequence where Francis hunts down a runner by himself at the beginning was cut for violence concerns. The knockdown drag-out fight between Jessica and Holly 13 was shortened. Some deleted scenes appeared as extras on 1998 digital video disc release, but other footage survives only in shooting script. The film elements appear lost permanently. The cuts demonstrate tension between artistic vision and commercial necessity. Director Michael Anderson wanted more adult content reflecting the novel's mature themes. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer needed family-friendly rating to recoup their $9 million investment. Commerce won, as it usually does. Number 8. Post. Production took 8 months, including score completion. After principal photography wrapped, Logan's Run required 8 months of post-production work. This extended timeline reflected the extensive visual effects, sound design, and musical scoring necessary to complete the film. Jerry Goldsmith composed and conducted the score with orchestrations by Arthur Morton. Goldsmith created 2 distinct sound palettes for Logan's Run: strings, keyboards, and abstract electronics only for cues inside the city and full orchestra for outside. This sonic distinction reinforced the film's thematic division between artificial indoor world and natural outdoor reality. The electronic sounds feel cold and processed. The orchestral music feels organic and human. The score was released on LP by Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Records in 1976, then expanded and newly remixed on CD in January 2002 by Film Score Monthly. Goldsmith's Logan's Run score represents early exploration of electronic orchestral fusion that would become common in science fiction scoring. His work bridged traditional Hollywood scoring and the electronic soundscapes that Star Wars would popularize. The 8-month post-production schedule was extensive for 1976 standards. Most films finished post-production within months. Logan's Run's complexity demanded additional time, pushing release date and increasing costs, but ensuring the film met Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer's quality standards for their most expensive production in a decade. Number 7. The film premiered before Star Wars and instantly became dated. Logan's Run premiered in June 1976, 1 year before Star Wars changed science fiction cinema forever. For a brief moment, it represented cutting-edge science fiction spectacle. Then George Lucas rewrote the rules, and Logan's Run became instantly, painfully dated despite being barely 1 year old. The contrast was devastating. Logan's Run relied on massive sets, miniatures, and traditional optical effects. Old-fashioned filmmaking techniques stretched to their limits. Star Wars introduced revolutionary motion control photography, groundbreaking creature effects, and lived-in universe aesthetic that made Logan's Run's clean, bright futurescape look quaint and artificial. Critics recognized the timing tragedy. One reviewer noted, Logan's Run marked the end of an era in filmmaking, the last of the old-fashioned science fiction epics. The film won Special Achievement Oscar for visual effects tied with King Kong Remake, indicating that in 1976, these effects were considered astounding. 1 year later, they looked hopelessly primitive. The instant obsolescence adds poignancy to watching Logan's Run now. It captured 1970s vision of the future, bright colors, disco aesthetic, sexual liberation, youth worship, moments before Star Wars demonstrated that audiences preferred space opera adventure over social commentary. Logan's Run became time capsule of a moment that passed almost immediately. Number 6. The film made $25 million and helped Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer recover from debt. Despite mixed critical response, Logan's Run succeeded commercially. It grossed $2,500,000 in its first 5 days, substantial sum in 1976. The film finished its theatrical run with $25 million in North America, plus solid performance in other territories. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer was credited with helping the studio recover from serious debt. Young audiences particularly embraced Logan's Run. The youth worship premise, sexual freedom themes, and disco-era aesthetic resonated with 1970s teenagers and 20-somethings who saw themselves in the film's vision of pleasure-seeking culture. The commercial success validated Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer's gamble on expensive science fiction. The financial performance encouraged Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer and CBS to commission television series based on the film. They paid author William F. Nolan $9 million to develop Logan's Run television series starring Gregory Harrison and Heather Menzies. The show debuted September 1977 and ran 14 episodes before cancellation. Despite film's success, the series couldn't find audience in post-Star Wars landscape. The box office vindication came too late to save Logan's Run's reputation. Critics called it vast, silly extravaganza, and audiences moved on quickly. But the money proved that science fiction could be commercially viable for major studios, lesson that would shape Hollywood's next decade of genre filmmaking. Number 5. It became the first film to use Dolby Stereo on 70mm prints. Logan's Run achieved technical milestone by becoming the first film to use Dolby Stereo on 70mm prints. This sound innovation represented significant advancement in theatrical presentation, providing audiences with immersive audio experience that matched the visual spectacle. The Dolby Stereo system enhanced Jerry Goldsmith's score and the film's elaborate sound design. The deep computer voice, the Carousel sequence's audio chaos, and the environmental sounds of both indoor city and outdoor wasteland all benefited from enhanced stereo separation and dynamic range. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer understood that Logan's Run needed every technical advantage to compete with increasingly sophisticated audiences. The Dolby Stereo presentation differentiated the film from standard releases, providing premium theatrical experience that justified higher ticket prices for 70mm showings. The sound system became part of the film's marketing, evidence of technical innovation and production quality. The Blu-ray release decades later featured Dolby True HD 5.1 audio track, presumably closer to the original 70mm 6-track theatrical presentation. Reviewers praised the soundtrack as real stunner for 1976 film, with bitingly crisp dialogue and effective use of rear channels. The audio achievement proved as durable as the visual effects were fleeting. Number 4. The film won Special Achievement Oscar for visual effects. At the Academy Awards, Logan's Run won Special Achievement Award for visual effects, tied with 1976 King Kong remake. This recognition validated Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer's investment and acknowledged that the film had made significant mark in visual and special effects, achievements that few previous science fiction films had sufficient budget to attempt. L.B. Abbott and Glenn Robinson received the honor for their work creating Carousel, the miniature city, the hologram effects, and numerous other visual sequences. The award represented culmination of year-long effects work that pushed available technology to its limits. The tied win was bittersweet. King Kong had larger budget, bigger stars, and more aggressive marketing. Logan's Run sharing the award rather than winning outright suggested the Academy viewed both films as roughly equivalent achievements. Neither would be remembered as revolutionary once Star Wars arrived. Logan's Run also won 6 Saturn Awards, including Best Science Fiction Film, demonstrating that genre fans appreciated the film more than mainstream critics. The film competed for Golden Prize at 10th Moscow International Film Festival, indicating international recognition of its ambitions even if execution was flawed. Number 3. The film was Saturn Awards' darling, winning 6 categories. Logan's Run proved very popular at the Saturn Awards, winning 6 awards, including Best Science Fiction Film. The Saturn Awards, presented by Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films, recognized genre achievement in ways mainstream awards ignored. Logan's Run dominated the 1976 ceremony. The Saturn wins validated the film for science fiction community, even as mainstream critics dismissed it as silly. Genre fans appreciated Logan's Run's ambitions, the dystopian themes, the social commentary about youth worship and euthanasia, the attempt at serious science fiction addressing contemporary anxieties. The film took ideas seriously even when execution faltered. The multiple Saturn wins also reflected how limited science fiction filmmaking was in 1976. Logan's Run won partly by being one of few major science fiction releases that year. The genre was still struggling for mainstream legitimacy, making Logan's Run's $9 million budget and Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer backing significant, regardless of artistic results. The awards provided marketing boost and critical validation when commercial performance was solid but not spectacular. They helped Logan's Run maintain relevance and find cult audience through repertory screenings and television broadcasts that would sustain it through decades when the film might otherwise have been forgotten. Number 2. The miniature city was among the largest ever built. 9 entire sound stages at Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer's Culver City facility hosted production, including Miniature City, among the largest of its kind, built to date. The massive model provided establishing shots showing the dome city's scope and the population density within. Production designer Dale Hennessy created elaborate physical environment rather than relying solely on matte paintings. The enormous miniature allowed for dynamic camera movements through the city that matte paintings couldn't provide. Audiences could see depth and detail in the futuristic metropolis, making the setting feel like actual place rather than painted backdrop. The investment in large-scale miniatures reflected Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer's commitment to physical realism over optical shortcuts. Modern viewers watching the opening credits, miniature cars zipping through tiny streets, find the effects laughable. But 1976 audiences, lacking comparison to digital effects, found the miniatures convincing and impressive. The scale and detail represented state-of-the-art model work, demonstrating how far practical effects could be pushed. The miniature city became template for future science fiction design. Blade Runner, Total Recall, and other dystopian films would build even larger miniatures, but Logan's Run pioneered the massive scale model approach that dominated science fiction effects work until digital technology replaced physical miniatures entirely in the 1990s. Number 1. The film's themes about youth worship predicted modern culture. Logan's Run explores themes remarkably prescient for 1976: dangers of youth worship, government-sponsored euthanasia, hedonism as social control, and conformity disguised as freedom. The film warned against overthrowing older generations, message aimed at young viewers following 1960s counterculture movements. The society's obsession with youth, beauty, and pleasure while eliminating experience, wisdom, and aging predicts contemporary culture's attitudes toward aging. Social media, cosmetic surgery industry, youth-oriented marketing all reflect the same values Logan's Run satirized. The film asked, what happens when culture worships youth so completely that age becomes capital crime? The shopping mall aesthetic wasn't accidental. Writer Robert Tennell argues the city design suggests anti-consumerist sentiment, warning about reducing human existence to consumption and pleasure-seeking. The me generation of the 1970s receives particular criticism through the film's depiction of citizens concerned only with immediate gratification. Author Barna William Donovan notes the film ultimately warns against complacency and conformity. Logan's journey outside reveals that the utopia is lie, that authority manipulates through fear and false promises, that questioning official narratives is necessary for human dignity. These themes remain relevant, making Logan's Run more than dated curiosity, its cautionary tale that each generation must rediscover. Bonus fact: Michael York still owns one of Logan's costumes. In his autobiography, Accidentally on Purpose, Michael York revealed he still possesses one of Logan's robes from the production. He kept the costume as personal memento of the film, evidence of how much the role meant to him despite mixed critical reception and the film's instant obsolescence after Star Wars. York spoke affectionately about Logan's Run throughout his career, praising Peter Ustinov's brilliance and taking credit for discovering Farrah Fawcett. He recognized the film's limitations but defended its ambitions and appreciated its attempt at serious science fiction addressing genuine social concern. The actor also delivered the track's best unintentionally sarcastic line in a digital video disc commentary. This film preceded a lot of other science fiction films in which the special effects did really become special. The comment captured Logan's Run's tragedy, a film that pushed effects to contemporary limits only to be immediately eclipsed by technological revolution. York's retention of the costume demonstrates actors' sentimental attachment to roles regardless of critical or commercial success. Logan's Run represented York's first major science fiction film, starring role in expensive Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer production and attempt at socially conscious genre filmmaking. The robe hanging in his closet reminds him that some films matter personally, even when history judges them harshly. Logan's Run endures because Michael Anderson and David Zella Goodman understood that science fiction could address genuine social anxieties about aging, conformity, and the cost of pleasure-seeking culture. They created the last old-fashioned science fiction epic: elaborate sets, earnest themes, colorful spectacle, 1 year before Star Wars proved that audiences preferred adventure over allegory. The film became instantly dated, but its warnings about youth worship and euthanasia remain disturbingly relevant.